Hi everybody, we are going to design some custom buttons and banners for our Google sites. Now, this is a completely optional lesson, but I have to say it's one of the number one things I get asked. How do I make my sites look like the way they do? Because I want really specific buttons and banners. So let me show you a couple of those sites that I've made so you can see what I mean. All right, so here's some of my sites. This is our MTech Google support site, and you can see that I have navigation going all the way across the top. But what I did was I created some visual buttons so that people could click on any of these buttons and also navigate around my site. You can see that I've also did this for our Read and Write for Chrome course we offer. Same thing, the navigation is at the top, but in a visually appealing way, people can go ahead and click on a button to take them somewhere. And notice I always like to use my buttons as my image on my header, simply so that people know they clicked on the right place. We did the same thing for Hour of Code. Register, try Hour of Code. And you can even see here is a little course that we did, and you can see that the buttons can get quite fun. I wanted to make a construction theme for formative assessment where we're building understanding, and so I created some little road signs. And each one of these are buttons that I can click and go where I need to go. So you can see I have a lot of fun building sites. I love it. And I'm not using anything expensive or high powered. I'm simply using Google Drawings. That's it. And so we're going to insert some images and some text, and a little color, and you've got yourself a button. Now we're going to start with a very basic button. And in the bottom of this video, underneath of me on the course page, I have included a button and a banner that will force you to make a copy so that you can simply just have it, it's ready to go, and you can just edit what's on it. Change the words, change the colors, change the image, but you know it's set up the right size. If you're ready to take it to the next level, you can start playing around with things like how did she make that road sign and some of those other different types of buttons simply by choosing images that you want to be able to use. So let's go into a new Google Drawing. We get into a new Google Drawing by simply being able to go to our drive, and we can say new, and we can say Google Drawing. And of course we can go to drawings.google.com. So I'm in this nice new Google Drawing. Now my screen it's projecting a little bit weird. You should see a bunch of gray and white checkers all over the page. That simply means it has a transparent background. That's really important for you to be able to have, because if I was to go look at this formative assessment site I was working on, that's the reason I can see those road signs the way that they look without having a rectangle white background around them. The emphasis I chose for this site was asphalt. I don't have to just do a color emphasis, I can choose an image emphasis. So it is really fun how you can take it to a whole nother level. In the case of the Hour of Code site, I simply wanted to be able to have this particular shape and not have it be rectangular as well. So when I'm in my Google Drawing, one of the most important things to do is to decide, is this a button or a banner? If it's a button, this is already set up to be the perfect size for a button on the page. And what I do is I simply put in a shape of whatever I want the button to look like. It could be a circle. I like this rounded rectangle. That's kind of one of those shapes I love. And now I can start designing. I can fill my shape to be a certain color, so I can have it be a bright button. Maybe I want it to be a white button, but I'm going to make the border of my button stand out. I can change the border weight. I can even change the border style. So you're starting to see the button come together. I'll leave it a solid one so you can see better. Now what I like to do is I like to add word art and images. So I'm going to say insert word art, and so I'm going to call it click here. You could call it the name of the unit or whatever it is that you're working on. So for example, I could also call this addition. When you choose word art, one of the things that you can now do is I can go ahead and I can change the font. I can change the fill color of my word art. I'm gonna make it white. I can change the border color and the border weight. So you can see how now we can make this pretty customizable. We can match some colors, whatever you want. And of course you can keep it quite simple. However you want to be able to do that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an image. I love adding images in Google because I have so many options. I could use my camera and I could have a picture of me or something from our classroom. I could do it by URL. I could do it from my drive. I can also search the web for those Creative Commons copyright-free images. So I can go ahead here and I can select whatever I want and insert it. I can now just pull from the corners, and if I hold the Shift button while I drag, it maintains perspective. So I can go ahead and I can make this button. Now, some of the same rules apply. Remember that awesome color pick eyedropper? I can hit custom at any point and I can put in the hex code from that color pick eyedropper if I really want all my buttons to match the entire theme of my site. So I have that beautiful purple we've been using. I can say okay. Same with my fill color. It's now held it under my custom, and it just allows me to make a great button. Now the last step is I say File, I say Download As, and I'm going to choose a PNG. The reason I'm choosing PNG is because I want a transparent background. I don't actually want that rectangular view around my button. So I'm going to download it as a PNG, and I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to call this Edition Button, and you can save it wherever it is you want to be able to save that. Now, when I'm on my site, I have the opportunity to add that button. So we've added a lot of different buttons. We have this is an addition button because it was just some text on a page. This image was able to link to it. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add an image. I'm going to choose from my Google Drive and I'm going to choose from recent. And my addition button that I just made is saved there waiting for me. I'm going to go ahead and add it to that page. I can drag it where I want it to go. Resize this a little bit to give it some more space. I can move this over, whatever you want to be able to do, completely up to you. Now what I'm simply going to do is choose my button and I'm going to make it a link. That's it. That's how you make a button. Now the reason I did that PNG, do you see if I hover over it, there's that little border? Well, if I was ever to add emphasis, now I do not have a rectangular border around that button. So it really just depends if you're going to be using emphasis or not. Now, one of the things I can do is on my page, I can go to addition and subtraction. Sometimes what I'll do is instead of a title here, I'll go ahead and I just once again add my button as my thing that people see when they first come to the page. And then that way they know where they are. Pretty simple, hey? So the exact same thing applies to a banner. A banner is simply just a different size button. The banners for both Google Sites and Google Classroom is 800 by 200 pixels. So I have one here for you already ready to go. How I did that is I went File and I went into my page setup. Now if I was on this one that I just made, it'll get all wibbly, but let me show you. File, I'm going to page setup. Instead of the standard size that Google Drawings is, I know I can do a custom size. Instead of inches, I'm going to choose pixels. I'm going to change those pixels to 800 by 200. Now, this really stretched it out because I already had it designed. So the big recommendation, do File Page Setup before you design. So I've got one where I wanted to put my Bitmoji on it because I want to be able to be like, hey, this is my classroom or this is my site. So let me show you what this can look like. So I have my lovely Google Sites banner and I've designed it and it's 800 by 200 pixels. I say File, Download As. Same thing, I'm going to save it as my PNG. You can save it as a JPEG as well. I'm going to go ahead and save that. So now on my site, I have two options to add this. I can go ahead and I can add it as the change image. And I can go and I can select the image. I can go to the Google Drive and search my recent, and I can select that banner. What you'll notice is it does sometimes crop it a little bit depending on how you've set it up, and it's also adjusting for readability. So if I'm going to put it as that background banner, what I'm doing is I'm not having text there, and I'm not adjusting for readability, and now I can see that banner added to the page. Your other option is that you can also leave it to be perhaps more of a blank, a solid color one, or I can choose here, I'll just choose some clouds. And now I'm going to simply add that banner as an image over top. So that way I'm not really dealing with having to have the readability or have it be cropped. I can say select, and now that went on over top. Either way, you've got a banner and it can look like you. And if you want to know about emojis, go for it because it's a super fun way to personalize your classrooms. So give that a try. You can try to make some copies of the ones I've given you below. And I'm looking forward to seeing what your sites look like.